Hello everyone, welcome back to JDCodebase. This is the web development series, and in the previous videos we created a Nodes API using the Express and the MongoDB. But there was one problem. All our code was inside one single file, right, in the server.js file, and this work was a small project, but when the project becomes bigger, the code becomes messy and difficult to manage, right? So today we are going to learn a very important concept used in the real world backend development called the MVC architecture. And by the end of this video, you will understand what MVC architecture is, why developer use the MVC model, controller, view, routes, and how MVC work in the Node.js and the Express. And we will refactor our Nodes API using the MVC. So let's start. Now, what is MVC architecture? MVC stands for the three things: model, view, controller. It is a software design pattern basically. And now what does that means? Means a design pattern is simply a way of organizing your code in a proper structure. And instead of writing everything in one file, we divide our application into separate parts. That's make our code clean and easier to understand, easier to manage, and easier to scale. So this is why almost every large application uses the MVC architecture. Now, why we use MVC? Imagine you build a backend project and you write database code, API routes, business logic, all inside single file in a server.js. Now, at the beginning, it might look fine, but when the project grows, you may have multiple APIs and thousands plus of code, database logic everywhere. Now the file become very confusing. So debugging becomes difficult, and adding new feature becomes more difficult also. This is where MVC helps in. With the MVC, code becomes organized, logic is separated, teams member can work easily, project becomes scalable. Now let's understand the three parts of MVC. First one is the model, second is the view, third one is the controller. Each one has a specific responsibility. Think of it like a team where everyone has their own job. So first one is the model. Model is responsible for handling the data and database logic. In our project, we are using the MongoDB, right? And so the model will interact with the MongoDB. The model usually does things like define the data structure, communicate with the database, and perform the CRUD operation. So CRUD means I already told you: create, update, delete. In our Nodes API, the model will define how a node look in the database. I already show you in the last project. Now let's come to the this is a basic model for the Nodes API we write in the last video. The first we import the mongoose, then we create the mongoose node schema, then we create the model by using this node model using the node schema. Next one is the controller. Controller is just responsible for the application logic, and whenever a user send a request to our API, the controller decide what should happen, what data to fetch, what data response to the send. Means the core part. We get the API, we fetch the means we find out what to means it's a post request, get triggered, put, delete, which requested. Then after that we select that controller, means all the calculation. That is a controller. Now controller usually receive the request, interact with the model, send response back. So controller act like a middleman between the routes and the model. Next is the controller examples is like so this is a basic backend code. You when you build a project, this is a basic project for the backend. You will get the server.js. This is the main file. Next you will get first view, then you create the model. The first import the mongoose, then create a mongoose.schema of that define the type of the data type, data structure, and then we create the model. In the next we create a controller. The controller has the, like here we have the get nodes function, create node function, update function, delete function. Means all the function, all the calculation are done in this file. And the third one is like means here first we import the model, then we do the get nodes, and then inside the function we fetch all the nodes from the database using the nodes.find and node.create MongoDB Mongoose function, and node.find by ID and update for the updation, and deletion find by ID and delete. So this file handles the logic of our API. Next one is the routes. Node route. So node route define API endpoint. Like here I get the post, get, put, delete, and API endpoint nodes ID for the put and delete. So here first we import the express and the router. Then we create a node controller from the this node controller from this file, and in this file we have many multiple get nodes, create node, update node, delete node. So this is a basically object, so we get it. Then we get, when someone call this route, it will execute like someone call the router.get nodes, then this router, this controller calls. So route simply connect API endpoint with the controller. So this is the API endpoint and this is the controller. Means instead of writing this function, async function here, we are just reference this. And next one is the MVC folder structure. Is like this is the folder MVC architecture. Inside this we have models. In the model we have node model.js file. Then we have controller node controller.js file. Then we have routes folder, and inside this we have node route.js file, and in last we have config db.js file. So and in last we have the server.js file. So now our project is much easier and well organized. And for using these routes, we have to first import that file and use the middleware app.use and give the path of this. Like I'm just write the API. This is a good practice to write API also the version 1 or your version 2, and just connect the node routes. Now we already see the MVC folder structure. Now MVC flow. So MVC flow is like client send the request goes to route, and means client call the whenever like I just call this this URL, I get the data. But how? So whenever I get call this, and then request goes to this file, which path is this, means post, put, get, delete, and their path. And route call the controller. As the route matches, then it call the controller. The controller means this one, the function, and model communication with the, then controller interact with the model. Like here we come to the that function. Inside this we have model. Then we connect with the model like .find, .create, .find by ID and delete or update. Then after the communication with the MongoDB and complete the operation, we data return to the controller. Means if this is completely done, then we get the nodes, and after that we controller send request to the response to the client, response.json nodes, response.json this message. So the full flow is like client to route to controller, controller to model, model to MongoDB, MongoDB to then back to the controller, and controller send the response. So all the code was inside the earlier in our project, in the server.js, our all the code in a single file, and then problems where is like hard to manage, difficult to debugging, not scalable. But now using the MVC, we have the models to handle the database, controller to handle the logic, routes to handle the endpoint. So our project becomes a professional and scalable. Now benefits of the MVC. MVC gives us many advantages like clean project structure, easy debugging, better code readability, and team collaboration and reusable code. So that is why almost every real world backend project follow the MVC. And real world framework means MVC used in many popular framework like Express.js from the Node.js, Laravel, Django, Ruby on Rails. So learning MVC is very important for the backend developer. So today we learn what MVC architecture is, why developer use the MVC, and model controller routes. So MVC folder structure, how MVC work with the Express and the MongoDB, and refactoring our Nodes API. And I hope this video help you understand the MVC architecture in a very simple way. In the next video, we will continue improving our Nodes API project. If you found this video helpful, like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to JDCodebase. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.